Grand Rising, beloved community. We are looking forward to this lush thought exchange with sisters Michele E and Khetnu Nefer. My name is Tracy, and I am the co-alchemist of the Acres of Ancestry Initiative, Black Agrarian Fund, and also the executive director at the Black Belt Justice Center. This is our second Dirt Rich teach-in, and we are excited to continue the exploration of collective healing through Black folk herbalism. Our Dirt Rich teach-ins are deeply rooted in land and ancestral memory. We understand that Africans, wherever we are an indigenous people, an agrarian people. We also understand that our collective liberation is in the soil. If you study the arc of Black agrarian history on Turtle Island, maroonage, subsistence farming, co-ops, plant medicine, work, root work, death rituals, collective land tenure models are in the soil, are deeply rooted in the soil and nurtured by the soil. So that's the meaning behind Dirt Rich. In an interview with Charlie Rhodes, Alice Walker shared, we are walking around on the earth that is actually literally filled with ancestors, and we never pay any attention to this fact. It's as if all of the indigenous knowledge, all of the indigenous wisdom, all of the indigenous everything is just something that we completely discredit as if it never existed. And this is a deep impoverishment of us as modern people. This is the grounding of tonight's Dirt Rich teach-in. The Congolese cosmogram is a river of time that continuously flows through multiple realms and dimensions. Our ancestors are the stars guiding us, and we are the living lanterns guiding the returning generations. We loved the idea of exploring these multiple dimensions of now with the hardy roots of Sister Michele's Working the Roots and the present futurism of the Gullah Geechee Herbal Gathering. And so before we get started, we wanted to invite our ancestors into the room, those who have influenced our soul work, our spirit work, and we wanted to start the Cipher of Ancestral Invitation with Sister Michele E. And I wanted to read the book dedication for the invitation. For our ancestors, our elders, and the generations that carried this holistic science through and beyond the Middle Passage. And those in beloved community, you can also call down your ancestors during this cipher. And if you want to lift them up in the chat, you know, we're very much committed to creating a community of care. If you want them to also come down in this cipher, please do so. The beauty of Sister Michele's book is my grandma came to me when I was reading it, and I was thinking about how she would line us up along the wall to get our helping of the castor oil, and how we would sit outside and suck honeysuckles. And I'm just very, very appreciative of both of your work. So let's call the ancestors into the room.
Asheo aho. Asheo aho. First, I'd like to give thank you to Tracy and Dakara and Khetnu and Dirt Rich for assembling us all here together with our ancestors, all of them who guide us on a regular basis, who've paved the way for us to be here today. Their strong medicine and strong resolve. We take that and we move forward. Asheo aho. I'm going to call out the names of all of the elders who are now ancestors that I worked with, who gave me the information, our information for working the roots. And as Sister Sally McLeod, who's now in the ancestor world, in the spirit world, said, when you die, you take the knowledge with you. So many said, when you die, you take the knowledge with you. They were so happy to share it and to pass it on, not just for me, but for everyone, for all of us, our whole community, because so much of our stories are in there. They're with us. Your ancestors are with us. My ancestors from Louisiana, from Mississippi, from Virginia, from Africa, from this soil. We belong to the land on this soil. Remember that. We belong to the land in Africa. We belong to the land here. We're indigenous here. Irene Blackburn Lee Ferguson from Mississippi is an ancestor. Eveline Elizabeth Preyo Bernard from New Orleans is an ancestor. Miss Chavis from North Carolina is now an ancestor. I feel her tingling me. Marjorie Davis from North Carolina is an ancestor. Nora Lee Dockery from North Carolina, ancestor. Ms. Ethel from Donaldsonville, Louisiana is an ancestor. Levatus Guillory from Paris, Texas, ha ha ha, not Paris, France, she would say, is an ancestor. Ms. Dot Osselina Harris from Georgia is an ancestor. Ms. Jacobs from North Carolina is an ancestor. Sally McLeod from North Carolina is an ancestor. Valina Noble from Louisiana is an ancestor. Ruth Patterson from North Carolina is an ancestor. Anita Poray from Mississippi in Louisiana is an ancestor. Mr. Red Luther Stelly Smith from North Carolina is an ancestor. Etta Williams from Texas is an ancestor. Ola B. Hunter Woods from Arkansas is an ancestor. These are the names that I have in this book here, but there are many more that I spoke to and I continue to speak to all throughout the South, the Eastern Seaboard, south of the Mississippi, west of the Mississippi. They're with us, always communicating and giving us information. Let us open portals between the cosmos and earth plane, so our communication is one. Asheo Aho, I thank you for all that you've given us, our life, our breath, our wisdom, our DNA. Asheo Aho, our strength, and our determination to carry on. Ashe.
Khetnu, did you want to invite ancestors into the room?
Yes. First and foremost, my grandmothers, Victoria Thelma Murray, who was my herbalist teacher, my mom's mom, my paternal grandmother, Estelle Gruber Frazier, my father, Laurent Frazier, his twin brother, Tyrone Frazier, and all of my ancestors. And most recently, we had a Gullah Geechee historian, anthropologist, Baba O, who just transitioned last Wednesday. And so definitely want to lift him up as he makes his transition and give thanks to all the ancestors, known and unknown, who have definitely imparted their wisdom through the ancestral DNA, through actual storytelling, through their works, and just their presence. Give thanks.
Ashe.
Dakira, did you want to lift up or call ancestors into the room before we get started?
Yes, I want to lift up my grandfather, Joe Lewis Howard, who ascended this past June. I want to lift up my cousin, my big brother, Brian Calloway, who also ascended this summer. I want to lift up my grandmother, who ascended 10 years ago, and it still feels like yesterday, my grandma Freeze. Inviting them in tonight, inviting them to continue to surround and love and keep and protect our families, thinking about the wisdom that they continue to pour, that reveals itself, like what you said, Tracy, even in reading, working the roots, just thinking about hiding your hair, not throwing your hair anywhere. Like my grandmother is with me powerfully, and so I invite all of our ancestors in and invite this space, bless this space, and look forward to everything that we're going to discuss tonight. Ashe.
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 I wanted to invite, actually, today is our dear co-alchemist, Janisha Gabrielle's solar return. She ascended on September 6th. She is a true Libra. She cannot be contained. I know that she is here with us. She is a way shower. She was a Black and LGBTQIA plus activist, all very much dedicated to collective liberation. And she helped us build the foundation of Acres of Ancestry. So her dreamscape truly influenced what you see here and what we're building collectively. I also wanted to lift up my matrilineal lineage of women that are on the other side that are always with me. I say the forager, the herbalist, and the farmer. The forager, of course, is my mom, Faye Lewis Lloyd. I get all of my intellectual foraging from her. I'm deeply indebted to her. Her solar return is on October 22nd. Beloved community, she was an educator and she loved to teach Gloria Naylor's Mama Day. So if you want to connect to that source, read Mama Day on October 22nd, flip through it and lift my mother up. My grandmother, Christine Roxy Lewis, the herbalist, who administered the castor oil. And when we would interview some of the community members in Black Belt, Alabama, they talked about mini wheat tea. And so I'm glad I had castor oil instead of mini wheat tea, which was strained. Well, we could get into what mini wheat tea was, but it was basically cow dung that was put in a white bag, and they would put lemon and some other herbs and strain it as a tea. And when we talked to several folks in Black Belt, Alabama, they talked about mini wheat tea and they had to take it. And then I want to lift up my great-great-grandmother, Lizzie Webb, who we call the farmer and the family land creator and steward. We know that in the African cosmovision, the commodification of land was not known, and that it was a resource to be shared, and our ancestors did that with us here in creating land abundance to combat white domination and supremacy and monopolization of the land. And so with that, we are ashe, ashe, ashe. We want to dig into it. We said that we were going to read the bios, but I think I have the question. The first question, I think we'll invite the bios. Or does that feel good? Or did you want us to read? Does that feel good?
Yes, that feels great.
Okay. So the first question, and beloved community, what we're going to do is this is a kinetic space. If you have a question, we'll be monitoring the questions, and you can, propose the question, and we'll try to weave it in. It's going to be a lush conversation. So we're probably going to run out of time. We're also going to provide the recording to beloved community, and then we're going to also provide visual notes as well. So the first question that we had is, in our writings, the curator and I, we were writing, and we came up with this mantra. The Black imagination is regenerative when boundless and interdependent. The Black imagination is regenerative when boundless and interdependent. How does this mantra resonate with you? How has it manifested in your soul work with Michele, with you, working the roots, and Khetnu, the Gullah Geechee Herbal Gathering?
Mama Michele.
Would you like to go first, young sister Khetnu?
No, ma'am. I would definitely defer to my elder.
Well, that regeneration, that cycle that we all live on, we don't live on this linear existence or segregated existence. That cycle is what we all live by, whether we know it or not. I think that as long as I can remember, have memory, I've always lived that way. And if you talk to our elders, they talk in circles. You may ask them a question and they'll give you a story and then they'll come back to your answer. That's our movement. We're always going back. I call it the Sankofa effect, to get the best from the past and bring it forward. So I've always moved that way. And my movement is has always been about community. And it could be because of the era I was raised in and the people who raised me, everyone from Mississippi and Louisiana and Virginia. I'm the first generation born up north and wouldn't know it in Oakland, California, because in 50s and 60s, everybody was from Mississippi and Louisiana and Texas and Arkansas in Oakland. So that connection and that cycle, bringing from what was in the South and what they survived and bringing it here and instilling it in us, that sense of community for all of us to move forward as a community, to rise out of the Jim Crow segregation, thinking that the path was integration that would be for us, and together, collectively. I find that Black folks are always thinking as, well, is this fair? Is this equitable for everybody? You know, community, not so much I, but is it just like the work that you're doing with Dirt Rich? It's community, and we can be stronger if we can regenerate our community always. We are nothing as a singular, hi Lucretia, as a singular entity. You know, together we are strong, and that's how we rose out of the predicament that we found ourselves in here on Turtle Island, being stolen from Africa, our indigenous roots being enslaved and stolen and taken someplace else. We were able to rise out of that whole with strength and perseverance to move forward. I know I'm go off in tangents also, but that's always regenerative. And I want to talk about my work and what my impetus was. It wasn't just for me. I felt the ancestors telling me we need to gather this history, this knowledge now, because when we die, they're taking it with them, and we've got to figure it out through our ancestral memory, get the information now, record it down, because it is important. It is a part of our survival. And I was on that mission, not just for me, not for fame, because I'm really super shy, but for all of us. The piece of the puzzle for this country being built up and its foundation lies within us, and it's constantly regenerative. And so I just want to close by saying we're always creating anew and rising out of our situation. So now we have the 19 families who churched up and bought the land. They're starting their own town. They said basically, oh no, this ain't working for us. We got to figure out another way. I'm staying on this land because I'm from this land, and my ancestors are buried here, and I have a right to this land. I'm indigenous to this land too. We have more and more people setting up their intentional communities. You have the two largest Black-owned banks who churched up to create one big bank for us. You have small things like, I like football. You have Deion Sanders and Terrell Owens and Warren Sapp churching up, who are going to be coaching Jackson State. And what I heard, Chad Ochocinco is going to be coaching at FAMU. So people are selectively making their moves so we can strengthen our community and regenerate out of this predicament that we have found ourselves in, that as we see now, as the Afrofuturists like to say, the integration project has not worked. And so now we are making our next move. And I'm so excited. So I'll pass that on to Sister Khetnu. You can take it from there.
Thank you. That I don't even know how to follow that, but definitely, I definitely agree. We're in that Sankofa moment, and that's what it is for me. I feel like I am bridging the gap between the generations, the elders. I like to say I'm a junior elder. I'm in my 40s, so it's like, you know, they are dying with the information, and then you have my generation who's in between, who experienced some of that knowledge and the wisdom, and then who are now, you know, having our own children and things like that. And then you have the generation behind us who may have a slight sprinkling, but has no real idea of what it is that we are truly embodying and working to preserve. And so I feel like I had to kind of step in the gap and create something that, so we don't miss a step. And that's what the Gullah Geechee Herbal Gathering is for me. It was never anything that I intended to do, but I saw, you know, these libraries transitioning, and so I wanted to be able to fortify my culture, because we are being inundated with gentrification and westernization, you know, and we're losing a lot of our ways. And because it has been subjugated to misuse, and, you know, people didn't want to identify with being Gullah, people didn't want to identify with being Geechee. And so how do we now take that and really embody that, and take that full circle moment where we took our language and our culture and how they tried to suppress it, and we, you know, we preserved it, and we actually innovated, you know, ways of life. And even the medicine, we're talking about the roots and the herbs and bringing okra seeds in our hair. Like, it's just things like that that we, you know, a lot of us don't know, you know what I'm saying? We just think these things appeared here. And so having beautiful bodies of work like Mama Michele's book and gatherings like this is important, so that we are in step with time, and we're bringing that Sankofa moment back, so we're not, you know, out of cycle. We're right in cycle, and we can really tap into our magic, our power, our energy, and we don't have to look outside of ourselves for that. We can intrinsically tap in.
Mm-hmm.
In previous discussions, we talked about spiritual regeneration and the generative symbolism of the Mullen Plant. In our previous Dirt Rich teaching, Drs. Pauls from Black Belt, Alabama discussed the centrality of Mullen in Black Belt, Alabama herbal medicine. Can you both talk about the Mullen Plant and what it means to you?
Okay, I love, it's one of my favorite plants. All of them are my favorite plants, but Mullen, they all have, like children, you know, they all have their unique qualities. So anyone who knows Mullen knows that there's these big, soft, fluffy leaves, and it was used as toilet tissue. They called it cowboy toilet tissue back in the day. And it has powerful medicinal qualities. It expunges the junk in your lungs from pneumonia and bronchitis and congestion. It reduces inflammation. It's a spirit plant that really grounds and centers your spirit with the earth and balances you. And it's the one plant that has extreme regenerative qualities, particularly when going through a fire. I don't know, some of you may know that I recently lost acreage up in one of the fires in Northern California, completely burnt out. It looks like a war zone. And the one plants that are coming back are the mullen plants. The seeds do not break and don't die off through the fire. Actually, the fire germinates the seeds and gives them restorative energy. It's like it's cleaning out the lungs of the earth where some place has been experienced trauma and pain, and it comes up. It heals us physically, our lungs, but it also heals the energy of the earth that needs to be healed and the people there and to ground all of us. So like in all of our lands, there's trauma from lynchings, from Jim Crow, from slavery, from beatings, from up in Northern California with the indigenous folks there, the Maidu and the Miwok and the Ohlone and the Pomo. You know, those mountains are where the gold rush happened, and they brought the dynamites and they stuck them into the side of the mountains, and kaboom, it explodes. Can you imagine how terrifying that would be to see this in the 1800s? And everything just rolls down to the rivers and pollutes the rivers, and it kills the wildlife, and the people are killed and enslaved. So even though you see these fires in Northern California and other areas, there was a fire that came when the colonizers came and wiped out everything to establish themselves through the Homesteading Act, which gave them land. It gave, I don't know how many, I think 2 million people land, free land up to 160 acres. So this is that land that got burned down. Everything I had up there burnt. 11 acres, cabin. I was building my getaway homestead. And I had to really settle back, and all of the mullen plants burned. They were tall, 5-6 feet tall. The big trees burnt, everything. And I had to really think about the trauma that had happened before we got up there today. And
I think, Michele, you froze.
What's his name? James Beckworth brought the first settlers over the Sierras to that area and pioneered it in the 1800s. And most of the Plumas National Forest is named after him. I knew we belonged there. So I'm talking in cycles, and everything goes, we're going back to this regenerative idea of regeneration and the circle again. The fire came in, cleansed it all out, and like the phoenix rising out of the ashes, the mullen comes up to heal the lungs of the earth and to heal the people. And I went up there last weekend, and little saplings are coming up. Little mullen saplings are already coming up. So, it's nothing just exists as a kind of physical thing. There's the physical side and there's the spiritual side. So, ashe to mullen, one of my staple medicines.
Oh wow!
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, for me, the mullen, and we talked about this, like Tracy said. Most recently, I've seen more mullen everywhere, even here in DC. It's coming up, and I love that Mama Michele talked about the regenerative qualities, because it's also great for the testicles and the ovaries, and a lot of people don't know it for that as well. So it's regenerative for the reproductive organs. And when I think about it from our Native brothers and sisters perspective, metaphysically, they used it to bring the unconscious back to consciousness. So the fact that we're seeing mullen in plenty now. I feel like given the great pause that we're in now with this pandemic, you know, I think it's bringing back that consciousness for us to think about getting back to nature and getting back to the roots and the natural medicines, because I think a lot of us have lost our way with that. And the mullen, seeing mullen in its prime now reminds me of that. And I think that's something that a lot of people are now discovering, because at the height of COVID, you couldn't find it, you know, to purchase and all of that, because people were discovering it. So it woke up their consciousness to this. I like to call mullen like the sweetheart. It's like a respiratory sweetheart. So it's like, you know, it's such a sweet herb, and not in taste, but, you know, just in its regenerativeness. I feel like it mothers us, Mother Mullen, you know, and so it's one of my favorite, and it is a Gullah Geechee staple as well. When you talk about Gullah Geechee traditional herbs, mullen is definitely one. And I loved when I read in your book, Mom Michele, that people were saying mullet, and and I was like, I can see that. I can see how, you know, that vernacular would come into that, and it being interchanged with the mullet fish, because I knew mullet fish growing up. So the mullet and the mullen.
That was beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you both. Sister Michele, in your interview with the Herbal Highway, you shared that you anoint yourself with High John the Conqueror oil each day for spiritual strength and fortitude. Can you both share other herbs, remedies, and healing modalities for this collective moment?
Ooh, yes. Man, it's like a constant. I think that for me, just having to continually cleanse and arm myself is just a given. There's not going to be a point in today spiritually and what has happened and physically that we're not going to ever not do that. High John the Conqueror is definitely my go-to armor that I put on spiritually, so that I can transform and shape shift, and I can have cunningness and stealth as we go out into the world and do what we have to do. At times I burn for the ancestors to open up the portals. I burn the Palo Santo and the sage. I keep a lot of poke around my house. This is a really powerful, magical, I call this the Jedi of the plant world. You can do so much with poke. It's been around for a long time, and if you have my book, there's many different, there's a whole, I think that's the longest section that's in the book. Yeah. So, you know, I give it to my dog. I give my big dog 2 to 3 pokeberries just to deal with her arthritis and rheumatism. And I grow it for my mother and my cousins to deal with their arthritis and rheumatism, taking 2 to 3 pokeberries a day, just swallowing it like a pill. They you know, they want to try to scare you and say, oh, it's so toxic. Well, anything can be toxic. Their medicine is toxic, right? But you can make pokeberry wine. It's a beautiful dye. It was used as a dye. The indigenous folks used it. Our native brothers and sisters use it as a dye on their horses. I also quite often, I brought some stuff here. I take oil every day, either fish oil, cod liver oil, or the black seed oil. You know, there's, in terms of being regenerative, I don't just stay on just what I know. That's my go-to, because I feel that the plant energy, our relationship with them goes way back. They know certain plants know our DNA. Certain plants in our ancestral homelands, they know who we are, and they're going to work for us better. So I always go there. But now I'm discovering the human black seed oil. I do the oregano spirits also. All of these are antibacterial, antiviral. They boost your immunity. I do ashwagandha. I get it in bulk in a powder. I just put it in here. It's a powder. It's an adaptogen. Adaptogen helps our bodies to mitigate the effects of stress. And this is a stressful, we've always been under stress. That's why we have high blood pressure, all of the ailments, you know, and every time one of us is shot down, it wounds us. It's difficult to continue on because we're wounded. Adaptogens helped our bodies to mitigate the effects of stress. So I do ashwagandha. Sometimes I do gotu kola. These are Ayurvedic herbs and are also used in traditional Chinese medicine because we're one. You know, everybody comes from Africa and we're one. So I don't just stay with the medicines that are in my ancestral lineage. I use zinc. You know, I take a zinc tablet, 30 milligrams of zinc every day. I don't want to catch COVID. I'm not interested in seeing if my immunity can withstand it or anything. My philosophy is to build up my arsenal. I do vitamin C crystals with bioflavonoids. I might, you know, do 2,000-3,000 milligrams a day. And the bioflavonoids helps your body to absorb the medicines, all of the medicines more, okay? And I usually get all of this stuff in bulk. Recently, I've discovered, and I change up. I kind of really just go on how I feel and make sure that I get these things in my body, maybe not every day, but I switch up. I'm recently doing bitters because, you know, I'm 61. And your sisters, when you turn 60 or even 50 in your 50s, your yes to bitters, yes, Danielle, yes, your digestion slows down, and you could be eating and, you know, more fiber or more greens, but that shit is not moving, right? Like regularly, right? So, excuse me, didn't mean to curse. So, you know, I recently switch up with different things from Cascara Sagrada to sometimes I do twice a year, castor oil cleansings. I take the castor oil because there's so many other medicinal properties in castor oil that are healthy, and it's in the book. I'm not going to spend the time to go over it here, but you know, it's anti-inflammatory, it's
We can't hear you, Michele. We can hear you now.
Okay. Oh, great. Sorry. You know, I put that booster in, but man, oh man, my Wi-Fi booster.
Oh, we're going with it. We're flowing.
Okay, cool. What else? So I went to the, okay, so castor oil cleansings. I do clay. I take chalk or clay. That's what, if some of your ancestors used to say, oh yeah, I need to go give me some chalk, need to go give me some clay, white clay. I wouldn't get it today because there's so much pollution out there, but the bentonite, which you find a lot in the colon cleansers, that's the same thing that the folks used to get to suck on the chalk or clay, which is a tradition that comes directly from Africa. And it pulls heavy metals and toxins from your system. Right? And we know that there's a lot of heavy metals and pollutants and mercury and fluoride and all that stuff out there. We're just inundated with all the time. And if you believe in chemtrails, all that stuff falling down on us, that clay pulls it from your system. So I take that about twice a month, just a tablespoonful. And I don't have a regular schedule. I just like go like, oh, okay, I need to take this. So all of that together, you know, that's my regimen. I try to eat well. I do drink tequila periodically, cactus juice. You know, I mean, I like me some chocolate cake, German chocolate cake, you know, some peach cobbler. You know, I moderate things. I moderate things. So does that answer the question?
Beloved community, during our planning call, I think our planning call ran over 2 hours. We were just
it was fun. I liked it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Khetnu, did you want to take that question?
Yeah, I take a lot of what Mama Michele is taking, so I feel good because I'm trying to get to 61, and, and I'm 46, and so for
Beautiful.
me, in addition to what she's doing, ashwagandha has been my savior through COVID, from being shut down in my business and dealing with the stresses of life and family 500 miles away. Um, is definitely one of the things. Hawthorn is another one for me. I'm big for heart therapy, heart tonic. Um, especially in these times when we have so many people transitioning and people getting sick, and that's definitely a go-to for me. Vitamin D3,
Yes.
because a lot of you were quarantined inside. I was outside almost every day. I still try to go outside every day. So supplementing with the vitamin D3. I get my clay on through diatomaceous earth, like you, Mama Michele. I can tell when my body needs that earthy connection, and so I take the food grade diatomaceous earth, a couple of tablespoons for a couple of days. Sometimes I may do it for a week, whatever my body definitely needs. I see someone talking about the medicinal mushrooms. Reishi is my friend. Reishi is definitely one of my go-to plants right now. Just fell in love with it. Was introduced to it a few months ago, and was like, okay, I should have been doing this a long time ago, but everything happens in divine order. So that's definitely that. I keep it old school, Gullah Geechee, my life everlasting. I keep that on deck. Rabbit tobacco for some people.
Yep.
I know in North Carolina they call it rabbit tobacco. I've been really pushing that with a blend with mullein, some peppermint, in a tea blend, and I try to drink a cup of that every day. I do sea moss every day. The sea moss gel I make my own. It's so many things that have been really, really incorporating. What else? I was trying to think of something else that was chamomile. That's what I'm sipping on now. Chamomile tea at night. Someone looking for a good life everlasting connect. Holla at me after the. I'm actually heading down to Charleston on Sunday, so I probably can forage you some. It was something else that it was really, really, sleep. Sleep was something that I think a lot of people are overlooking. Just quality rest has been key for me as well. I think a lot of people overlook that. We say, yeah, we resting or whatever, but like just be totally devoid of technology. I have what I call switch off Sunday, and I try to just cut everything off, stay off the internet, stay off the phone, and just really connect to myself, to nature most days. And just having that opportunity to just be and not living vicariously through other people, and doing that. And apple cider vinegar, that's what I was trying to think of. Yes. Apple cider vinegar every day. I'm on that ACV every day. Because with the advent of heart disease in my family was very pervasive. My father died of a massive heart attack at the age of 52. And so I try to stay on heart health, that type of thing, because I feel like with us, especially as melanated people, our hearts are our biggest medical condition, and that's literally and physically. And so I'm very big on heart medicine. So those are some of the general things that I do. I'm sure I'm missing something, but elderberry, of course, too. The elderberry tinctures I've been on. I just finished some elderberry jam, which is so good. I was like, I missed that, the elderberry jam, and that's really good.
Can I add something, Tracy?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, so yeah, that was that apple cider vinegar. Yeah, I do that daily too. I start the day with a tonic. Just before I put anything in my body, I drink a glass of water and I have fresh ginger, half a lemon, apple cider vinegar, a little honey, sometimes in peppermint, and I drink that first thing. It flushes out, you know, the toxins in your system. Then I proceed on. But I'm glad you brought up sleep because it's so important. And I recently purchased these black tourmaline and other stones to counteract the effects of the digital. It's so much, I can feel the electrical, you know, vibrations from the wires. And we have the microwave and we have the digital, and all of these things impacts our bodies and our abilities to sleep. So I do try to turn off as much as I can at night. I wear these black tourmaline and I have stones. And I also recently started listening to deep sleep frequency tones and sounds, you know, which helps. So yeah, so that's, you know, I'm sure everyone is working to stay balanced also, but sleep is very important.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
Psilocybin mushrooms. I actually experimented with a tub this summer. I don't know if any of you know Brother Kahindi Wiley. Are familiar with him? He recently transitioned, right? Did you know that? And so, yeah, he did. He transitioned right. He and Dr. Layla O. Africa transitioned about a week from each other, which was really, yeah, it was like, wow, what's going on? You know, in the ancestor world, they're working on that side. So I recently, this summer, was able to do a whole tub experiment with psilocybin mushrooms because I just like growing things. And it was really a wonderful process. It takes a lot of patience, and it's kind of, for those of you who are artists, it's like the lithography of the growing world, because everything has to be clean. And if you make one wrong move, you screwed up the whole thing. And so I was able to get some really 3 good flushes that I gave to some friends. And yes, Baba Kalindi, yes, powerful, powerful brother. I actually have, yeah, you know, powerful medicine takes you on other journeys. You know, I think that it cuts us through the junk that's here, and it expands us to opening up to other realms. That was my experience with it. And I felt like I was walking on those other realms, but still here on earth plane. Everyone's experience is different. So, yeah.
Okay, we have a question from Kahindi. Let's see. Oh, okay. Oh, let me ask it. Okay, here we go.
Oh, I can ask it, Sister Tracy. It's okay. I'll go ahead.
Okay.
Okay. Hi, this is Kahinde Apara from Oakland, California, Ohlone land. And I have a question about the ethics of being a Black Native scientist. I am a biochemist. I'm a plant biochemist. And in my job, I research traditional plant medicines. I would love to get some more Geechee medicine, some more Caribbean root medicine into the lab. However, and this is a big however, I know how science be. We know how science does us. And how do I reconcile that? How do we reconcile that? Should we even be bringing our medicine into the labs? Because so many of our Black people do not have access to it as a, what's it called? I hate the word legitimate, but as a scientifically evidence-backed medicine. And, you know, I know we got to protect it, but also, I don't know, y'all, come on. I just need some, yeah, maybe you should have asked that question, Sister Tracy.
No, it's fine. Does anybody, beloved community, Sister Michele, Sister Khetnu, do you want to, does it resonate? Do you want to respond to that question, that inquiry?
I have just one question to the sister. You wanted to bring it in the lab to do what?
Yeah.
Oh, yes. Okay. So in the lab, what I do is I get the fresh plants and I cryomill them, and then I run them through the mass spectrometer. And I look, at all the peaks, I look at the readouts, and I'm looking at what are the bioconstituents, and I'm looking at what are the biomolecules that we know are there, and any biomolecules that we do not know about yet as a quote unquote science community. Yes, I'll put my email if anyone wants to contact me, because I'm trying to source from Black and Native people. But then again, do I really want them in our medicine? I'm also the great grandchild of a hoodoo practitioner, West Oakland, big ups.
Okay.
Could I offer something? I would say, I don't know if it would be appropriate for you to reach out to Doctors Paul, you think the same thing, Doctors Marlowe and Anthony Paul. Dr. Anthony is a botanist, and so they have their own farm, like they treat people. Dr. Marlowe is a physician, and her husband, Dr. Anthony, is a botanist. So they create their plant medicine. They have their own farm where they're growing everything. They have a treatment center effectively where they, pre-COVID people would come and be treated there. So, I mean, it's not, obviously everybody's not going to have that same kind of setup, and it didn't evolve for them overnight. But if that's what you're interested in, and I'm sorry, y'all, my 2-year-old, and working towards, I would definitely reach out to them just to kind of talk through it, or at least have mentors and guidance, because what you want to do, they're doing it, but they're doing it for themselves. It's their lab, it's their farm,
Right.
their clients that they're treating. So if you want to, if there's a way for you to take it to the people, then I think that they would be the ones to speak with.
Mm-hmm. And I think also, just to chime in, one of the books that I've read, Black Participatory Research, someone else was reading an incredible book called Indigenous. I have to look at on my IG, but I think that to make sure that you're coming from a decolonized place, that you acknowledge and respect indigenous knowledge sovereignty. And so if that is your grounding, that's something that I really appreciated by Dr. Paul, the Doctors Paul's, because oftentimes, because we have been conditioned in, higher education, that even if we are melanated, we still come into our communities with a very colonizing approach, and we don't respect community knowledge sovereignty, and the relationship could still be very extractive. But one of the things that I appreciated with Doctors Paul is that the medicine is free. They recognize that it's a reciprocal relationship, that they're taking the traditional knowledge and they're giving it back to the community. So I think that I'm deeply inspired by how they walk the planet. And so I definitely, those who are really interested in navigating those worlds, if you reach out to us, we can connect you with the Pauls. They're in Sawyerville, Alabama. Okay. So I'm gonna ask this other question. Working the roots was a long birthing process over 20 years. In the book, you quoted your editor who referenced the Cuban saying, Sister Michele, we go slow because we are in a hurry. I love that. Can you describe that process for us? How important was it to physically move to a house down a dirt road in rural North Carolina? Did you find that your physical presence in North Carolina helped to build trust and to get the elders to open up to you?
Yeah, great question. Yes, I thought it was extremely important to move there I was on no timetable to hurry up and get it done. I just wanted to get it right, so I wouldn't have to go back and say, I wish I would have done this, or I wish I would have done that. There's a couple of little, I wish I would have, but they're not major. And so it's important to, well, first of all, slow down and get it right. And if we do that, then we don't have to go back and do the rewrite or redo, which will take more time. I first generation Northerner, and I had always been down to the South during the summers, Mississippi during the summers, Louisiana during the summers, road trip to Alabama, to Tuskegee, you know, the whole thing. And during the summers, I had never lived there. So I knew that movement of living was very different than visiting. And my dad always used to say, he'd tease us because we'd say, you know, we're going down south, we're going down south. And he'd say, the only South that you really know is Los Angeles, because I'm in Oakland, right? So it wasn't really until I moved down to North Carolina. I married a man from North Carolina, and we went down there. We wanted land. We got married in Bennettsville, South Carolina. And instead of using our money for a wedding or a reception, we took it and we bought our acreage. And we bought 27 acres of land, and with the intention of setting up a number of things for me to continue doing that work and that movement and connecting with the elders. I wasn't really clear on where that journey was going, but I just knew I had to begin communicating with them, not from an academic point of view, but like, I'm your daughter. You know, we belong to each other. Let's honor this tradition. And also we were wanting to set up a Waterstick Artists and Scholars Restaurant, and as an opportunity for people to have more intimate connections with, as I call, indigenous cultures in the United States. So being Southern Black culture, indigenous culture, Gullah Geechee culture, indigenous culture, Tuscarora Indian Nation, you know, indigenous culture. And then we had a connection to a small clay building town in Mexico, which was an indigenous culture. So we were setting up this environment, take it out of, we were both professors at the time and teaching academically and exhibiting artistically and being creative, taking it out of the academy and really just wanting people to have direct relationships with the cultures. And that becomes more authentic and unadulterated. There's no interruption. You can have the path and relationship that is for you. I'm not structuring it. There were certain structures there in each community, and each community was responsible for their interaction with the artist or scholar who came. So that's the background behind, also at the same time, meeting people and talking to the elders. You know, it became where I lived. It didn't become this thing where I'm down here and this is what I'm going to do. It just became, I moved there. I didn't think I was going to ever leave. It was like, oh, this is it. This is where I want to stay. Everything I want is here, you know, and had I not moved there, I would not have had the magical experiences that I had, that my children had the strong relationships that I built and the connections, and really the understanding of what it meant to live in the South. I literally could feel the ancestors like grabbing on to me and saying, this is where you belong. Even though my people were from Louisiana, Mississippi, and Virginia, it's the same thing that happened. And I felt so connected there. And that also lent to the evolution of the book. When I'd go visit the elders, I was just going to visit the elders, you know, and we were just chopping it up. And they were teaching me, and we were having conversation. And it looks like my screen is frozen. I hope you guys can still hear me. Okay, no, there you go. You're moving again. So yeah, that's I believe in authentic experiences. And like I said, I wasn't in any kind of a rush at all. What I did find out is that when I did it, the time that I did it, that was the time to do it. I wish I would have been 10 years earlier, but had I waited 10 years, I would have missed a lot. So I can't, there's no way I could go back down there and get the information I got now, because, you know, the elders have transitioned on so much, you know. So yeah, that's why it was so important. And then let me just say, I've known Louisa Tish, Sister Tish, since I was in my 20s. You know, when her book first came out, Jambalaya, oh, it was, the 3-4 copies that I just, you know, destroyed because I was using it so much. And she was such a great teacher and became a really wonderful friend and mentor. And she told me that, you know, she was the one who suggested it would be great if you could document all of the plants, and so that we can have a memory of them and you can tell us how to use them. So that creating that whole medicinal reference section and how to organize it and structure it was a whole other energy than, you know, so different than going down with the tape recorder and a camera, which some people had never seen a tape recorder before. And just vibing with them and, you know, coming back and doing some medicine stuff. And then Miss Patterson always had her little special drink in the afternoon. And, you know, they had people come over because they were still doing their bootleg thing. And so, you know, all of that was a part of the experience. And I'm going in circles again because I don't remember where I started, but but it was essential. It wouldn't have been the same thing at all.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I have a question for you now. And so this is still on the circle in the cosmogram. The African proverb goes, when an elder dies, a library burns to the ground. But we know there exists multiple truths, right? Yet another truth, when an elder dies, a library transfers to rememberers. Khetnu, can you discuss the gathering's process of preserving eco-memory from the elders? How have the elders responded to the gathering?
Ooh, well, from the few that I've had just direct contact with, they were very supportive. They were very celebratory, because nothing like this has ever existed prior to. One of the caveats, and I don't know if Mama Michele ran into this with some of the elders that she talked to, but a lot of the Gullah Geechee elders would gatekeep, what we would call gatekeep, because they didn't feel like, and I won't say worthy, but they didn't feel like the interest and the passion and the verve was there for the preservation of this information. And some of them would rather die and take it with them than to have it fall in ill hands or be used with, you know, malintention and that kind of stuff. And I can't personally say that I've ran into that as of late, but I've known people who, you know, encountered that. And so my goal for this year with the Gullah Geechee Herbal Gathering is to really sit at the feet of the elders and really pull them in, because I don't feel like that has been done before. Like people always, you know, poke them for information and stuff like that, but actually having a space where they are celebrated, and it's not for, well, I just want to glean information from you so I can make this product. It's more so of extolling them as the libraries and institutions that they are, and making them our, you know, our melanated Smithsonian, so to speak, you know, from that herbal perspective. And so that's one of the goals for the gathering for me, because like I said, I want to bridge the gap. You know, I wish at 7, my herbal teacher. My grandmother, she transitioned when I was 7, but she taught me so much in that span of time, but I was so young to retain it at the time, you know, so that being that rememberer, you know, for me has been to have a space and place for people my age and younger who can now not have to go through the links that we've had to go through to remember, but they would have that encyclopedia of knowledge like this amazing book is, you know, and Mama Michele's book, and so that we have that, and that has been first and foremost the goal, because like I said at the top of this, I had no intentions of ever putting on a herbal conference. I had no clue. I was given a small template, but this is really taking on a life of its own. And I daily go to my ancestors, and that's part of the reason why I'm actually going home this week, to really go to these graves and go to these places and sit in these woods and really try to impart what it is that I'm supposed to be doing with this mission, because it is not of me, and it's definitely not for me by myself. Like Mama Michele has said, like, I'm not doing this for any fame, glory. A lot of people don't even know that the Gullah Geechee Herbal Gathering was mine. I remember a friend texted me and she said, "Are you going to the Gullah Geechee Herbal Gathering?" I said, "I think I better, because it's my event." So, you know, that's how far removed from the ego part of it is for me. But to really uplift and uphold these traditions of the Black and brown people that inhabited this space, that built this nation, that, you know, embodied this medicine that we're using and now remembering and you know, really embodying that. And that's what the Gullah Geechee Herbal Gathering is. And I hope that this is something that will leave a legacy for others to emulate, to, you know, take off with, you know, because it's just not about me at all.
Thank you.
Can I add something to that? So, you know, I feel you on talking to the elders, because, you know, so much had been taken from our communities and commodified and misused. So there was, you know, I had to build a trust over time. There was only one person who did not want their interview to be published, as when I went back to reconfirm with everyone. And this was a good one. It was someone from the Sea Islands. And she said, "No, this was just for you." And I really wanted to publish. I mean, it's like, woof. And I'm still holding on to it, you know.
Yeah.
So who knows? I mean, maybe I can reach back out and see, but it's really just powerful information. And so yeah, I feel you on that. I can resonate with what you're saying.
Yeah, it like you said, it's they've been so misused and abused, and so they have really got, even from their families, because they just was like, well, I don't trust that one. I don't think she really is going to do with this, with what it needs to be done with it. And so, you know, and it's sad, you know, it's sad, but I get it as well, you know, and it's something that I hope that, seeing that this is something that they can invest in with their knowledge and, you know, their experience, so that they won't feel like this is, you know, something that's gone asunder, but something that's really going to preserve their information and their experience and their knowledge, and be taken to heart, and, you know, and not being glorified as some, like you said, some commodity, and being seen as a cash cow, so to speak.
Right.
You know, so yeah.
Well, that was actually one of the questions that I was going to ask next, and it was colonial capitalism and the commodification of the natural world, and how that is literally burning to ash, right? And so the issue of commodification came up with the search for yellow root with Elder Eddie Nelson. And what was so nourishing for me was when Elder Nelson said to you, when you finally got to the yellow root near the swamp, and he said, just take what you need. When people find a patch, they try to take all of it. That's why it is so hard to find. And I know, Sister Michele, we had talked in our previous planning call that turned into a vibe session. You talked about how capitalists are now selling clean water futures and bottles of clean air. And so, you know, talk about the commodification of herbs, you know, and folk remedy. And what really struck me, particularly with respect to yellow root, is when you said that the elders didn't want to buy it at the flea market, you know, for $5, you know, for a bundle, and that it lost its potency. But I also appreciated the community understanding of you only take what you need, or you can go, you know, you can ask permission to go to the backyard and pull up what you need, and no one ever took more than they needed. You know, they started out, they foraged it in the wild. And if you could talk a little bit about that with respect to even your medicine making practices, do you forage for it, or, you know, is it a balance? Can you just talk about that, both of you?
Yeah, that's so important. I mean, all throughout our lineage here, throughout colonization and slavery and the era we're in now, it's really been all about the commodification of resources, with resource-rich Africa, you know, now fueling all of the digital technology with their rare earth mineral mines, and the people continuing to be exploited, or their natural, you know, herbal resources. That's the way this era has been. Fortunately, you know, we were able to keep our community coming up through colonization and slavery, having to set up our own systems of healthcare and our own medicine people, and knowing that we all needed this medicine. No one owned it. It belonged to all of us. Wherever I go, I get the mountain melon. I have pokeweed in my yard and front yard. And fortunately, people walk by, and I live in a great neighborhood and a great block in East Oakland. And we talk about the poke, and they know they can take some of the poke. And I give whatever I have. I don't charge anyone for anything. I do a lot of consultation with folks. People who taught me did not charge me. So I like to pass that on with whatever I do, because it's a gift from the creator, from the divine, from my ancestors. And I am taken care of. So, you know, it's important for us to continue on moving in this way and sharing the knowledge of the plant medicine. I get what I can in the wild, and then other places I can go to someone at Castlemont High School. There's other gardens where people are selling herbs, or I go to Mountain Rose Herbs, which is here on the West Coast, which I find as a very reliable source. In terms of getting more information and knowledge about the medicines and how to use it, you'll find as we age and mature that our needs for our bodies are different. So my consultants and the people I go to are the same people I've been going to since I was a teenager. We have a network of people that we call and say, hey, I got this going on with me, and you know, what do you think I should use for that? These are my elders that are in my family. And the younger ones, you know, call me. So we keep this circle going, helping each other so that it doesn't die out, and then bringing in the new. You know, we live in a global society, so bringing in the traditional Chinese medicine, bringing in the Ayurvedic medicine, bringing in, you know, whatever natural medicines are there that we can put into the pot that can work for us.
Khetnu, did you want to nibble on that question?
Sure, yeah, definitely for me, I don't forage as much as probably as I used to when I lived in South Carolina. I just moved to DC 4 years ago. Sometimes when I go home, I may have the opportunity to grab some stuff. My partner is more of the forager. He is a herbalist, Dr. U of U360, and he'll literally stop, hey, stop, when we're out and about, and he'll grab things and stuff like that. So we do try to get it when we can, especially if things that we've been looking for and it's out of stock and we can wild forage definitely with that. You don't find as many Gullah Geechee people who still do that. You may find a few elders back off in the islands. I'm from Johns Island, born and raised. So Johns Island, Guatemala, some of those that are still a little less untouched. St. Helena down there, I know they tend to still do a lot of the traditional foraging and things like that. So, and when it comes to the commodification, we all know that the earth has been pillaged and raped and all that great stuff. And it's to the point, like even for me now, ethically, I don't sell or use white sage, because of that. And, I'll do a blue or, mugwort. So looking at other sources of doing those traditional smudging methods and being mindful of that, and I think with the education, and that's part of the other piece for the Gullah Geechee Herbal Gathering is to educate. So yeah, we want to preserve this stuff, but we want to also educate and remind a lot of times to people who are already in the know to be mindful of what it is that we're doing and why we're doing it, and doing it in an ethical way. Yes, we all have to eat, but we should be mindful of the cyclical nature of what we're doing. You just can't take and not give back. And so I'm loving how we are now getting back into ethically growing and sourcing our own foods and our own medicines, because a lot of people don't realize foods are medicine too, and so just being mindful of that and not supporting those people who we know are doing these practices, and being mindful of those herbs that are endangered and sourcing other things that are plentiful and then replenishing from that. I think that's so key. And I think, I feel like I'm preaching to the choir here, but just knowing that we have to keep that in mind first and foremost, even as practitioners of the plants and being in community with the plants is honoring that relationship. And so that the commodification becomes less and less, because now people have more of a respect for what it is that we are utilizing, and we won't do that, and we are being better stewards. We lead by example so that others can follow in our footsteps.
Mm-hmm. Beautifully said.
Very beautiful. I have another question, and then I'm going to open it up to beloved community. This question is, in Working the Roots, you have photos of bottle trees in Miss McLeod's yard. Did she explain this West African spiritual practice to you? In your interviews with the elders, were there other spiritual practices, retentions that were woven into daily life? Khetnu, what do these photos conjure up for you with respect to Gullah Geechee spiritual practices? So I smiled when I saw that photo.
Yeah, me too.
Did we lose Michele?
Michele?
Yeah.
Am I speaking? Okay. Yeah, so, it's interesting. I was excited when I saw them in her yard. And I think that because the lineage and the reasons why had been, the intentional reason, the original reason had transformed or transmuted into something else. She said, we put them in the yard to make sure that there's a good harvest and to make any kind of evil spirits are gone away or evil bugs or anything. Still remnants of the reasons why bottle trees were established in Africa and used, but it was really connected to the agriculture and to the land and having a good harvest and having blessings come there and keeping away anything negative and bad, from birds to bugs to natural disasters. So that's what it had kind of transmuted to by then. And she talked about how important it is for them just to be out there, whether she has a garden or not. Now, everyone dabbled a bit in hoodoo. Everybody did. And Mrs. Patterson actually came from, and so did Eddie Nelson. His great-grandfather was a hoodoo man in South Carolina. But Mrs. Patterson was actually, you know, had people lining up, making money from it and coming from all over. And she had learned from her father. And with a deck of cards and some old conjuring cantations that I'm not supposed to tell anybody. There's another thing I can't tell anybody. And some herbs. Devil's shoestring, High John the Conqueror, coon's root, you know, and that she would use along with her readings, her oracle readings that she used with a deck of cards and the different herbs. So she had continued on that tradition for 2 generations, and then she was passing it on down to her grandson, who she said had the gift. So it was, you know, it was everywhere. It was very prevalent. It's just interwoven into our movement with Christianity and spirituality and religion. You go to the church during the day, and then after church, you may need to go see, you know, the hoodoo woman or the hoodoo man, because you got a situation over here, whether it's a court case or a love case or, you know, whatever it is. You want to win some money at the casino. It was just, you know, it's very, very much a part of our movement.
Yeah.
And I want to honor them. I believe in that. I call it spiritual alchemy. It is so powerful and so real. You know, those unseen forces and using the minerals. I mean, it's like we are scientists in a laboratory. And that there's a lot of powers out here that we can't see, energies and movements, and we are the scientists. We are the spiritual scientists who are working it and passing it down. And protection is very important.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And yeah, when I saw the bottle tree in the book, I was like, oh my gosh, I love that. Growing up with my great-grandmother had one in her yard. I was blessed to know my maternal great-grandparents actually, and just remembering that and seeing what I now know is candle magic, which I didn't understand at the time. I was like, why is this candle always lit? Because like I said, I was a small child when, you know, because my great-grandparents were in their 90s when they were transitioning, and I was 7, so we're talking like over 40 years ago. And, you know, seeing the little bottles of spiritual baths and remembering, you know, sneaking, and my grandmother, she kept hers in the medicine cabinet in the bathroom, and just opening them and like, what's this green liquid, and smelling it and seeing like the money symbol on the front or the ones for the law and court cases and that kind of stuff. And being too young to understand, but it wasn't really explained to me either. That was my disappointment now. I was like, I wish someone would have taught me this kind of thing, but being a rememberer is intrinsically in me. So being able to see things since I was 4 or 5, and those who had transitioned coming to me, and you know, now really working with that energy. Both grandparents, my mom's parents came to me, like I feel like moments after their transition, you know, coming to me in their spirit self and telling me, tell them stop all that crying. My grandma say, tell them stop all that damn crying. I'm all right, you know, and I'm 7, you know what I'm saying? And not understanding what that was, but that connection was there, and feeling like I too was given the gift to see, and being clairaudient and all that great stuff, and embracing that. And I feel like that hoodoo tradition has been so interwoven. Sometimes I think some of the magic has been lost for some people because it's become so routine that they don't understand what it is exactly that they're actually looking at in plain sight, that type of thing. So it's great to see how it's all coming back, and it's actually Hoodoo Heritage Month, and seeing that that's now being celebrated, and it doesn't have to be behind closed doors, and you know, we can honor that and walk in that proudly and say, yeah, I do my stuff for the full moon, and you know, with this new moon coming out, you know, in a couple of days. So it's very powerful, and I think that's something as Gullah Geechee people, they still kind of hold tight to that, even though they may not always express it. It's something that it's just innate that they've done, and they've seen my grandmama did it this way, her mama did it that way, that type of thing, and it's still being passed on, because now people my age are doing stuff. Oh, girl, don't sweep my foot, you know, that type of thing, and and they're like, and you know, like my northern friends are like, what are you talking about? I'm like, well, I can't do that, and trying to explain that to them, and it's not seeming so backwoods and country, but knowing that, girl, there's some stuff that, you know, we have to be mindful of. And let me tell you about this, you know, and we joke, my partner, he's from New York, but he has Gullah Geechee roots on both sides of his family, and even day to day, like he's saying words, and he's saying it in such perfect Gullah vernacular, and I have to look at him sometimes. I was like, wait a minute, that don't sound like from the Bronx. Like, you're getting Geechier by the day. So it's like I said, it's very intrinsic, and I think that veil is becoming a lot more thinner, and so that we can just walk in that pride and embrace all of this amazing magic, and seeing that. My only thing is the commodification of it in South Carolina, especially in Charleston. There are a lot of white folks who are selling bottle trees as this novelty thing to have in your yard, and I'm so many days I want to go and knock those down when I'm driving by, because I'm like, I know a Black person don't live there, like, you know. So that part of it for me is the thing I have the issue with, that exploitation in that way. And it was like, well, I live here, I'm from here, and I'm like, yeah, but that's not of you, so let's not do that, you know.
Yeah, the same thing happened in New Orleans. I mean, all of New Orleans basically is commodified, you know, now. But I'm as you were speaking, Khetnu, so many things came to mind that, you know, we did not realize how special and important that tradition is, because it was just a part of our lives. And one thing I'd like to share with all of you wonderful folks here is that one of the people I interviewed from Louisiana said they used to take they called it before birth. They didn't call it the afterbirth. It's the matter that comes into the world before the physical form comes in. And they put it in these jars, and they write the person's name on it because they would use it for different things throughout their life. Sometimes they'd use it to go out and fertilize the land around them, particularly the plants. Yes, the placenta. It's before birth, not after birth. They fertilized plants that were being used to be the medicine for the people. And when I got this information, it really, I understood that not every medicine is for everybody. It's not generic. We're connected to the land. We're connected to the medicines that our ancestors have used. So, you know, different people do different things with the before birth. You know, they would use it, and sometimes to put it in soup. It's extremely nutritious at different times.
You froze up, Michele.
I guess to your own
You came
liking or your own alchemy, you know. There's not just one like way to use the medicines. So we have these traditions that really it kept the line of people, the lineage from the soil to the earth plane to the cosmos, that ancestral line. It kept that placenta, not just from the before birth, but the circle. It kept the circular placenta going, you know. And I think that a lot of people don't know that we had that tradition, particularly when it became fashionable again to, okay, I'm going to save the placenta and I'm going to, you know, make pills out of it and do other things. Well, that has been a part of our ancestral tradition since being on, that I know of, being on this land here, and probably in Africa as well.
I wanted to just note that we are at 8:30, but I wanted to, if it's okay for Sister Michele and Khetnu, if we could open it up to beloved community if they had a burning question that they wanted to ask. Also, Sister Khetnu, there is a desire from some of the herbalists, you know, to kind of keep this like open source kind of cipher going, and we can open source and share everyone's email address, or, you know, we have it however you want to, we could share the notes. We want to continue this dialogue, but I think that it falls, you know, the herbalist should really own it. Again, we just wanted to be the conduit to kind of get this metaphysical, multi-dimensional, multi-generational conversation going. But again, it's really open, and so we can talk about that. There's been a deep desire for that, but we can open this up. And if you have some questions, just put it in the chat. And while you're putting those questions, I have one more question, because these two beautiful Black sisters are both self-published. And we talked about the importance of self-publishing. And those who read the book smiled when they saw that the book, the publishing house was named Waterstick. And so, if you both can talk about that, why it was important to be sovereign over your work. And I think particularly, Sister Michele, when you talk about the sovereignty, the community knowledge sovereignty, and why you decided to go that route of self-publishing or through your own house.
And I just want to shout out to everybody making these comments. They're so exciting. I want to shout out also when I read some of them. So it's really powerful what's going on here. So, you know, it was important because our words and interpretation of our life and history has too often been in other people's hands and looked at through a microscope and an academic way, interpreting it. And just quite simply, you know,
We lost you again.
I really hella good editor, and then we were going to do it ourselves. So it keeps it within our community. I don't want anybody else editing my voice. I didn't want anyone editing the elder's voice. It was very important for me to keep their words intact, you know, and not to go in and reinterpret it. Now, what I did is, because I'm a first generation Northerner and I was novice at being a Southerner, you know, I kind of put that lens in there. But other than that, those are their words coming up, you know, raw and unadulterated. And that's the way it needed to be.
I agree. Like, just having agency over your own voice is so powerful, and not having to conform to whatever, you know, these people think you should sound like, or do this or do that. And for me, it was just not letting my music die within me, type of deal. I am not a mother of physical children, and I see a lot of my works as my children. And so giving birth to these books were my physical manifestations of that, and being a way to leave a legacy of, you know, who I am and what I'm doing. And in addition to that, you know, and so self-publishing actually was like my gestation thing, and being able to doula myself. I'm a birth doula as well. And so being able to, you know, really go through that process, and it's now become this creative spark, because book number 3 is rattling around now in my head, and it would be 3 if I get it out before December. It would be 3 within this year, and not on a rush thing, but it's just that, you know, just like with your children, you just like, I want to nurture you, and I want to see you grow, and I want to see, you know, the impact that you have on this world. And so that's what it is. So any of you who are looking to self-publish, I highly recommend it. I don't have my own publishing company yet, but that's something that I would definitely look into, and be able to help others have a space where they, you know, can come and feel like they're a part of and not adjunct to. And I think that's the other thing too. You don't want to feel like, you know, you're this novelty, whereas you can really embrace yourself and feel accomplished in knowing that the love and energy and sacrifices. For me, when I started writing my book, I dropped my hard drive and lost everything. So my book is a completely different thing that I started out writing. So the one that's physically here now. So it's, you know, really honoring yourself in that process, and knowing that what you're doing is going to transform you in a way that is could probably transcend your wildest dreams, just by being able to do it in that way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I was looking through the chat. Do we have any questions from beloved community? Again, we will be releasing this recording. It was such an amazing conversation. The ancestors were all up through it, and I wanted to let me check the chat. Okay, if there aren't any questions, Sister Michele and Sister Khetnu, did you have anything that you wanted to share before we close out the cipher? I actually, one of the things.
One more question.
Oh, there is a question?
In the chat. It's from Danielle. Do you have any suggestions for people living up north with less connection to the land trying to build?
Up north where?
Massachusetts.
Ah, Massachusetts, Fitchburg, Massachusetts. Well, you know, you have the Wampanoag folks in Massachusetts. You have all of those indigenous, Afro-indigenous tribes that are there, who are really, it's a beautiful thing. They are everyone. Those of us who've walked in the world as, you know, Black, African-American, Negro all our lives, those of who walked in the world as looking Black, African-American, Negro, and being Native, we're all kind of embracing all of our ancestry now and not being ashamed about it. So they know who they are. They know who you are. You know who you are. You know who they are. You know, I would say just reach out to them, because it's important when you live in the North to have those alliances. It can be very, very lonely. It's not like living in the South where everywhere you look around, you got Black folk around every corner, you know, which is really what I love. But I think that you'll find them very, very welcoming. And if you can church up with someone and get some land, you know, to go up there with you, you don't have to have a commune, not into communes, but into letting everybody be on the same vibe and have their own space to have self-determination and freedom, then do that. If you're going to do that, you should do it soon, because so many changes are happening with, you know, Mother Earth and the continuing heat expansion and continuing the melting ice caps, which are melting uncontrollably. Here in California, I think Sister Kahindi's here. It's like almost 90 degrees here today, and it's middle of October, right? So there's definitely something going on all around the globe with the fires and the rising heat level globally, methane being released in the oceans, underneath the ice caps and on top. So there's all kinds, I see this convergence of Mother Earth saying, you know, I'm tired of y'all, not us, because we don't really have the power to abuse her, we wouldn't do that anyway, but those in power who are abusing me, I'm tired of it. I'm tired of you abusing my people, and we're all converging. We're converging to this point of transformation that is going to happen within the next couple of years. You know, so I would suggest that wherever you're going to be to ride this out, to go ahead and be there as soon as possible. Having the land is the first step. You can have great ideas, but you can't really do anything without the land. And make sure you got some water on your land, because you can't do anything if the land doesn't perk and you can't have a well. And I would not want to be, you know, dependent upon city waters. Then you have that system that can control that aspect of energy that we need and all life needs.
I did see a question. I think there were two, and we can close out with these two. I don't know how to scroll up.
There's one from Lauren, I think, from St. George. Khetnu, maybe you would want to answer this. She was asking, she's in the Low Country, she's out in St. George. Are there any herbs that you would recommend growing?
Well, like I said, you can't go wrong with the mullein. Life Everlasting, I know they put it in our psyche that it's illegal in South Carolina, which is not true. That's just suppression of the power. Yeah, a lot of people believe that it's illegal to have it in their possession, because what happened is that the pale people were smoking it and having hallucinations, and so they kind of put it out there like, oh, you know, I'm supposed to have that and all that great stuff, but they obviously realized the power of this plant. And the thing is, with the gentrification now, we can't forage on it for it to get it, because the land is you'll be trespassing, you know. And so they're buying up all the land, and so you can't go foraging for it like you used to. And so definitely that. So a lot of just your regular herbs now, because these are the things that people, you know, planting elderberry trees, you know, that would definitely be a cash crop in this COVID era. You know what I'm saying? Granted, they're not going to grow right away, but that's something I would definitely suggest, because now more people are aware of the power of elderberry, and so having that would definitely be to your benefit. You know, so some of those things I would say just right offhand, because, you know, and I would say get with some local herbalists, because that's the thing now, is for us to source from each other. So get with some local herbalists and say, what is it that you would absolutely love to have access to that I could grow on my land? You know, because me personally, I don't have land here in DC to grow stuff, and I would love to, you know, ethically purchase and from a place that's ethically sourced. You know, I love Mountain Rose. They are an amazing sponsor of the Gullah Geechee Herbal Gathering, but they're out in California, you know, so by the time I get it from California to here, my client could have transitioned or whatever, you know what I'm saying, God forbid. But it's like, I want to be able to source things from, you know, knowledgeable people, honest people, and people who look like me, you know, and I feel like that's something that we could do. So I would say poll herbalists in your immediate area and say, what is it that you are in immediate need of, or what would you benefit from me growing, and you know, and getting that. And I saw someone talk about, you know, herbalist guild. This is what we need to do now, you know, and Mama Michele touched on that. We need to church up and get our herbal selves together and do what we need to do collectively. You know, one hand can't clap. My grandma used to say that, one hand can't clap. And so now, you know, we need to bring our hands together and be able to come in symphony with each other and applaud, you know, our efforts and do what we need to do for that.
And our last question, we had a question in the chat about herbal medicine certification programs, if you would recommend. They said of African descent or the, again, I'm not really good. I lost the chat. It keeps moving up. Anybody that wants to chime in on that, I think it's really a searching about these certification programs. Would you recommend? Is it more, you know, self-mastery? You know, which pathways can you go? And there are many doorways to walk through, right? But if you could
Definitely.
And fam, that's gonna be our last question. I see. Otherwise, we're gonna be on the dance floor. I'm about to be the DJ Sandman and be like,
closing
last call.
Right.
Well, I'd like to hear what other people have, you know, from the beloved community, you know, what's out there, because I really don't know. I'm just so wired to get it from my community by word of mouth and just kind of intrinsically and organically that way. I don't like paying money for stuff like that. You know, to be honest with you, it costs too much. It costs thousands of dollars a lot of times. So, but I'd like to hear from the beloved community, if anyone has any recommendations. I
have a couple of suggestions. First, and I saw someone post about it, indigenous remedies. They are African owned, very great program. I know a lot of people who took their certification and are amazing herbalists. My partner, Dr. Yu, of U360.com, and that's YEW360.com. He does an in-person certification, but he has been doing monthly workshops. Actually, we just did one 2 days ago, monthly classes on different aspects of herbalism, like we just did a classification on Monday. And so that's really cool. There was a third one that came to mind and just kind of slipped me. But my goal too with the Gullah Geechee Herbal Gathering is to create a directory of these things, because people ask me this all the time. But also get with an herbalist. You know, if you see someone on Instagram that really resonates with your spirit, like Mama Michele says, you know, create that partnership, that apprenticeship, and glean off of that information. And however that reciprocal thing you decide, be it monetary, you know, fiat currency, or through exchange or bartering or whatever, I feel like we've gotten away from that. And we, you know, are like you said, we want to charge thousands of dollars when a lot of times this was an apprenticeship situation, or just, you know, teacher student type of thing, or just community education. And I think we need to get back to that. And learning from each other in that way, and creating our own Black Herbalist Guild and that type of thing, where we are learning and teaching each other in a space that's minus those that don't look like us, because sometimes we feel like their ice is colder, and that's not necessarily true. So, and a lot of times they're just regurgitating information that they glean from us anyway. So those would be my, you know, recommendations for melanated people that I know right offhand. Like I said, there was a third one that totally escaped me, but those are some that are there. And stay tuned to the Gullah Geechee Herbal Gathering, because like I said, I'm compiling a list of Black herbalists and things like that, and I'll be putting it out within the next few days. Just trying to compile that information, and it will be free. Like, I don't, I want us to have access to that. Oh, there's
Well said.
I just remembered. Sorry, Mom. Ascension Art, Sister Eleni down in Louisiana. She has a herbal school, the Activity Herbal School as well. So Ascension Art, and it's Ascension with a 3 instead of the E. Ascension Art. Yeah.
Wow. Well, I think everybody's spirit is full. I think I shared in a post earlier this week that after our planning call, I was still on a cloud 3 days later. It was just really incredible. Sister Michele, I shared the books that you told us to add to our reading list, but I wanted to close out the cipher with the book of Joe Hayes, if you remember that chapter, and the water stick, and I wanted to take that chapter into our dreamscapes tonight. I was moved by the retelling of Joe Hayes' vision quest in the deep woods of paradise. And I love the fact that he was on his vision quest in paradise, a settlement that was established by Black sharecroppers. Like, wow, that his vision quest came to him. And this was a very powerful download that you shared, and I really wanted to leave the cipher with this. In 2001, the government required all water witches and well diggers to prove they were qualified. This meant passing a test filled with mathematical equations and questions on geology and hydrology. 32 years of experience invalidated by the stroke of a pen. One can still practice without a license, but those caught are fined heavily. Governments pass laws to contain people they fear and maintain control and power. But the traditions of a people and the gifts from their ancestors can never be contained or destroyed. Traditions are the life breath of the people. It is how we have survived. It is why we have survived. That was so potent. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. They had a moment. Khetnu, writing is a moment, right? You have these moments. Yeah. That was one of my favorite passages also, in realities.
Oh, wow. So you have to revisit that chapter, the book of Joe Hayes, if you haven't had an opportunity. It is, wow. I think that this period of transition that we're in now, we're all on a vision quest. And I think that creating ciphers like this is very affirming. As my dream doula said, we are the living lantern, right? We are the living lantern. And so that we can continue to receive the downloads from the ancestors and add our own agency to it, our own, ori to it, our destiny. And so I'm just really full. I will share. I'm not the techie on the team. So we're gonna figure out how to get this information to beloved community and the list and share it with Khetnu, make it open source. I don't know how to do that, but we're gonna make that happen. The intentionality to make that happen, and we will make that happen for the collective.
Yes, I'm trying to write a chat and it's not working.
With sister, I'm gonna give you the mic last. You close us out. Cut off the lights. Cut off the music.
Oh, you mean Miss Lucretia Van Dyke? She gonna close us out?
Oh, is that who it is? Okay.
Down here, yeah, Lucretia in North Carolina.
I'm closing. Hey, y'all.
Hey there.
Hey, Lucretia.
Coming to you from the Blue Ridge Mountains in Asheville, North Carolina.
Yay.
I've been talking to Khetnu. I said it's time for the South to come up and have its own thing. So we're working on something for next year, the Appalachian, honoring that. I'm speaking with the American Herbalist Guild, sharing some of the stories. Tomorrow is my day. I don't think they know what they've invited. We bringing it up from New Orleans. We coming straight from Egypt. We coming straight from Africa. We're here for our space back. We're here to claim our space back.
Yes.
And like, I'm all for it. I'm visiting the graves like Khetnu. I'm offering all the offerings to the ancestors, and their stories are crazy. I'm writing a book now that just captures the legacy of all these ancestors that have been coming in dreams, and I'm meeting their families and interviewing their families. So it's a beautiful movement that's happening, but we're coming for our space back, and we're going to claim it.
Yes.
And we're going to start our own Black American Herbalist Guild or Indigenous Herbalist. We need to get on a call. I'm all for it. I got some grant money that's I'm starting to apply for to kind of push a little bit too. So let's do this.
We got it.
Yes.
Giving thanks to the ancestors, giving thanks for all your beautiful faces and all your parts that you're playing and lifting up all these stories. I can't wait to host y'all in the mountains in North Carolina so we can run through and forage in the woods. Run through the waterfalls and visit the great French Broad River, which is the 3rd oldest river in the world. She runs north like the Nile. And she has we will do ceremony together. We will pray to her for the earth together. I can't wait for you to experience her. You can divine with her. 3rd oldest river in the world. One of the oldest mountain chains in the world. We're all up in it, and I can't wait to share it with you. Even the vortex weird energies that's here too. Good night. Thank you, Michele. We love you. We're so glad you're not being converted. Thank you for our Thank you, Khetnu, for all you're doing as Geechee folks. Thank you, Tracy.
Yes.
Good night, everybody.
Powerful sisters.
Powerful.
Tracy.
So we will get the recording out soon, and then we'll get the visual notes, and then the emails that we captured again. I'm gonna figure it out. I'm gonna give it to Khet. We'll figure it out and make it so it's open source and everybody can continue to build. This is really exciting. This is the work. This is the work.
This is the work.
Thank you so much.
This is the work. This is the work. I love chatting.
Thank you, everyone. Have a blessed night. Thank you, Tracy. Thank you, Kara. Thank you, Mama Michele.
Peace. Thank you. Stay in touch. Church up and get some land. Thank you, Tara and Tracy. I'll be in touch.
Okay.
Lydia! Hi, Lydia.
So reunion.
Okay, peace, everyone.
Bye, y'all.